session, the first meeting of the deliberative session in the town of Newmarket. Thank you for your patience. We had to postpone the start at 12:30 to 10:30. And our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next thing we'll do is pick up the moderator's rules of procedure. Hopefully everybody has had a chance to look at them. Everybody was here for the school district meeting. The rules are the same. And as always, the meeting has the authority to override any decision that they make on a point of order. I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt the rules of procedure as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, concerns. Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Thank you very much. So the first article is to choose officers for the coming year. There are three-year town council positions, three-year municipal budget committee member positions, 2 planning board positions for 3 years. 1 moderator position, 1 supervisor of the checklist position, which is a 6-sentence for 12 years, and a trustee of the trust funds for 3 years. The meeting is now closed.
Is it possible to turn it off and speak loud?
Yeah, just don't have any control over it. I'll speak loudly, as loudly as I can. So, article number 2 is shall the municipality approve the charter amendment? Oh, sorry.
No, we can go through it.
Okay.
Yes. Charter amendments first.
Shall the municipality approve the charter amendment as summarized below? In summary, this amendment codifies the town and school district's efforts to share services. This amendment language has been approved by the New Hampshire Attorney General's office. It is amend the town charter by adding the italicized language recorded in the article. And since the whole article is italicized, section 1.5, school district. The school district of the town of Newmarket shall be a body corporate and politic, and shall have all the powers, and shall be subject to the same obligations and duties as are conferred or imposed upon town school districts by the statutes of the state of New Hampshire, in such case made and provided. However, the school district and the town manager provided for under the charter are hereby authorized to enter into such voluntary agreements as approved by the town council for cooperative purchasing, the maintenance of buildings, and other services as may be desirable to affect economies and promote efficiency. This is unanimously recommended by the town council. And the floor is open for discussion of warrant article T2. Mr. Simon.
Perhaps a wide comment, but we're now codifying what we're no longer doing after we did it, and without having it cut. Yeah.
We are codifying.
Okay, so we're hoping that the cooperation will be there in the future, even though the Jets and the Sharks are separated.
It is, we are continuing some, the facilities director is still going to be shared.
And the other thing I just wanted to make note of, there's 17 people on the dais, and there's only 16 of you, so you guys can have votes.
But it's 16 to the very best. Any further comments on warrant article T2? Seeing no comment on article T2, article T2 will proceed with the warrant as presented. And article T3, shall the municipality approve the charter amendment as summarized below? Effective date July 1st, 2020. Amend the town charter by adding the new italicized language as follows. Removed items are struck out. So section 3.2, oaths of office and organizational meeting. And as I read this, I'll try to highlight what's been struck out and what's italicized. The councilors so chosen shall meet in their capacity as the council on the first Monday in April. So the change is striking following the second Tuesday in March and inserting the language in April so that the councilors meet the first Monday in April, next following their election, for the purpose of taking their respective oaths of office. Then the following language is added. At its first regular meeting following, the council shall adopt its rules, choose its officers. And the word adopting has been changed to adopt in that phrase. And then carrying on, and for the transaction of business required by law or ordinance to be transacted at such meeting. The town clerk shall act as the clerk of the council, and the moderator shall preside without vote at the first organizational meeting of the council following enactment of this charter. In summary, this amendment allows for a period of transition of newly elected town councilors. Currently, councilors take office the Monday following the election. This amendment would have them take office the first Monday in April and allow for training prior to taking office. This amendment language has been approved by the New Hampshire Attorney General's office. Majority vote required, unanimously recommended by the town council. Floor is open for discussion on Article T3. Seeing none, Article T3 will proceed to the warrant as presented. Article T4, shall the municipality approve the charter amendment as summarized below? Amend the town charter by adding a new italicized language as follows. Items removed are struck out. So section 4.1 is, the title would change from town administrator to town manager. The word administrator would be struck. The word manager would be added in its place. The language is the chief executive and administrative officer of the town shall be the town manager. The word executive and was added. The word administrator was struck. And the word manager substituted in its place. The council shall appoint a person especially qualified by experience and training who receives the votes of at least 4 members of the council to be manager rather than administrator. The manager shall serve as of the council and shall fix the manager's salary in terms of employment. And you're going to hear that throughout all these changes, the word administrator is changed to manager. In summary, this amendment would change the title of the town administrator to town manager. Currently, the position of town administrator in Newmarket has all the authority of the town manager under section 4.6. However, the title town administrator is confusing. At non-charter towns, the town administrator does not have the same authority as a town manager, but only the authority that the select board gives the position. By changing the title to reflect the actual position and to clarify the chief executive officer's authority and duties, this amendment language is approved by the New Hampshire Attorney General's office. Majority vote required, unanimously recommended by the town council. Floor is open for discussion on warrant article T4. Seeing none, article T4 will proceed to the warrant as presented. Article T5, shall the municipality approve the charter amendment as summarized below? Amend the town charter by adding new italicized language. Items removed or struck out. Section 4.6, powers and duties of town administrator. Nice.
It stays as that,
It stays as that.
unless it gets approved.
The administrator shall be the chief administrative officer of the town and shall supervise and direct the administration of all the town departments and personnel therein. The administrator shall have no authority, however, to supervise town elections. The town moderator, rather than town clerk, is the chief elections officer. The administrator shall be charged with the preservation of the health, safety, and welfare of persons and property and the enforcement of the ordinances of the town, this charter, and the laws of the state of New Hampshire, and such other responsibilities as may be assigned by the council by resolution. The administrator's responsibilities shall include, but not be limited to, the following. So in summary, this amendment would change the chief election official from the town clerk to the town moderator as is required by state law. This amendment language has been approved by the New Hampshire Attorney General's office. Majority vote required, unanimously recommended by the town council. Floor is open for discussion on Article T5.
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Lamantino.
I'll just speak loud. So the wording that we're changing in most of the charter, say, changing the town administrator to town manager. This section deals with the authority of the town administrator. So since we no longer have a town administrator, is the changing this to town moderator not applicable?
You mean town manager? I think you should
We're
moderate.
changing the wording to town manager, right? This section 4.6 deals with the duties of a town administrator, not a town manager.
Yeah, basically we don't change the charter to say town manager until such time as the voters approve the change in title. So it has to refer to the term town administrator. All this is doing is when we're reviewing the charter, the last charter commission put in that the position doesn't oversee elections, that the town clerk does. Well, state statute actually says the town moderator does. We're just clarifying this to make sure it complies with state law.
But I think Joe's question is, why does this say administrator when we're changing it to manager?
Because you haven't changed it yet.
Yes.
So there'll be
If you
additional
approve four,
changes.
Hold on a
it
second.
changes to manager.
So there'll be additional changes after the town manager is approved?
If the town manager is approved, the charter gets changed throughout. And nothing else except the word administrator gets taken out and the word manager is put in. It's just
There's got a change that we're not seeing here, right?
it's because it has not been approved.
Okay, all right. Fine.
Russ, did you have a comment? I want you to step up to the microphone so we can all hear you.
I think we clarified that. My only comment was if four gets approved, changing administrator to manager, then five has 2 or 3 times administrators mentioned, that would then be manager post-approval of 4.
Right. Correct.
That's right. Talking about making law, we're not talking about common sense. So any further discussion? Yes, Ms. Lockhart. We're still on Article 5. Okay.
Sorry?
Just make sure that we're all on the same page, we're addressing Article 5.
This is the town moderator?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a, maybe not particularly pertinent, but is this a committee of the town,
The moderator.
the election committee?
Now, chief elections officer is the moderator.
Right, but is that what you're going to be head of, is that the town committee?
No. There's a bunch of election officials
Yeah.
in town. They don't work for me. The town clerk is an important election official, the supervisor is the checklist, and the ballot clerks.
But you have voting, you have meetings and things like that, right?
No,
Well, I thought that the town, or the charter says that,
I don't know
that you have.
I don't have the charter memorized. I know that by statute, I'm responsible to the Secretary of State for the way elections are conducted.
I think the charter does.
I think the only time you would ever be a part of something like that is that you're chair of the board of recount.
If you what? I'm sorry?
The chair of recount, the chair of the board of recount, if there's a recount, he serves as the chair of that. I believe the clerk's the other official.
The reason I ask is because if someone wanted to join this committee, there's no way they know about it.
There's not a committee, it's
But if
it's
they
by
wanted to-
virtue of office.
I'm sorry?
It's by virtue of office.
Right, there's no committee.
Okay. You know what? I'm gonna look for that and then come talk to you.
Yeah, I just don't have it in my
Thanks.
mind. I'm sorry. But we're always looking for people to help out at the elections. I don't think we've ever turned anybody away. Any further comment on Articles 5? Further discussion of Article T5?
I'm just wondering,
I'm sorry, I just need your name.
Joan Diorio, 191 Bay Road. So who's the current chief election officer? Is it the town clerk?
By statute, it's me.
It is now, or when did, why is?
What Steve is saying is, this was an error in the charter The town moderator, by law, is the chief elections officer, and I'm elected by the voters.
But is that something relatively new? Or was the town clerk the election person when the charter was written?
No, I suspect this was just an oversight.
It was an error in the last charter commission by saying the clerk was the election. Since colonial days, the moderator has been the chief election official in every town.
Well, that's interesting. Okay.
We should definitely point the fingers at the secretary of the last two charter commissions. Who was me. You notice I didn't trust me again. You're doing it directly this year. Any further comment on Article T5? I think you sat next to me at the last charter commission. Why didn't you stop that? Any further comment on Article T5? Seeing no further comment, Article T5 will proceed to the warrant as presented. Article T6, shall the municipality approve the charter amendment as summarized below? Amend the town charter by adding the new italicized language as follows. Items removed or struck out. Section 5.2, budget procedure. Oh boy, this is long. Preparation and adoption of the budget shall be pursuant to RSA Chapter 32 at such time as may be requested by the administrator or specified by the administrative code. Each department head shall submit an itemized estimate of the expenditures for the next fiscal year for the departments or activities under his control to the administrator. The administrator shall, based on these estimates and other data, prepare a recommended budget which he shall, together with these department estimates, submit to the council no later than October 15th. The council shall review the budget and make such modifications and amendments as it desires, and submit the proposed budget to the budget committee no later than November 15th. And the language struck out is, or at such other time as designated by the budget committee. So it will be no later than November 15th. Then the following language is added. If the town council fails to adopt the budget by November 15th, the town manager's budget as presented shall be submitted to the municipal budget committee. In summary, this amendment would address what happens if the town council does not adopt the budget by the time they must submit a budget to the municipal budget committee. We do not have a provision in the charter to address what happens if the council does not adopt the budget prior to the required date of submittal to the municipal budget committee. This amendment would have the town administrator's budget be forwarded onto the budget committee if the council's budget is not adopted by November 15th. This amendment language has been approved by the New Hampshire Attorney General's office. Majority vote required and unanimously recommended by the town council. Floor is open for discussion on warrant article T6. Seeing none, Article T6 will proceed to the warrant as presented. Article T7, shall the municipality approve the charter amendment as summarized below? Amend the town charter by adding the new italicized language as follows. Items removed or struck out. Section 5.3, budget hearing. The budget committee shall hold in a convenient place a public hearing on the budget. The following language is struck out. At least 25 days before the first session of the annual meeting. That language is struck. The following language is added. On or before the third Tuesday in January. Then we carry on. Notice of such public hearing, together with a copy of the budget as submitted, shall be posted in 2 public places. A copy of the budget shall be available to the public in the offices of the town clerk during regular business hours. In addition, notices of such public hearing and town meeting shall be published by the town clerk in the newspaper of general circulation in the town at least 1 week prior to said meetings. In summary, this amendment would change the date of the Municipal Budget Committee's budget public hearing to reflect the timeline as set by the official ballot law, SB 2. This amendment language has been approved by the New Hampshire Attorney General's office. Majority vote required and unanimously recommended by the town council. The floor is open for discussion on Article T7. Mr. Simon.
Again, point of clarification. If I read this, it sounds like the budget as well as the notification should be done a week before the meeting. But I am confused as to whether the budget needs to be available a week before the budget committee meeting just the notice? Where, this is T6. Or T7.
We're on T7, yes.
Says the Budget Committee shall hold in a convenient place a public hearing on the budget by the third Tuesday in January. Notice of such hearing, together with a copy of the budget as submitted, shall be posted in 2 public places. Okay. Then on the next page, it talks about a notice having to be 1 week prior to the meeting.
That's just notice of the meeting.
Okay, so the budget does not have to be available a week, that's all I was trying to tell you.
That's right, you have to have budgets available at the public hearing, you just have to notice the meeting. ahead.
So the budget doesn't have to be available until the day of the meeting?
Because the budget isn't adopted until after the public hearing.
Right, but available to view.
Yeah, you mean, it's a public record, so whatever budget you have there. The problem, the reason for this amendment is when they amended to go to SB 2 back in the 90s, they never adopted the public hearing schedule of SB 2. So we're still following the traditional town meeting public hearing schedule, but it doesn't match up with the rest of our schedule for the SB 2 portion.
Okay, so all this is saying is it's by this date, and you
Yeah.
have to have a notice out of the meeting, not the budget, a
Correct.
week before the meeting.
Further comment on Article T7? Further discussion? Seeing none, Article T7 will proceed to the warrant as presented. Article T8, shall the municipality approve the charter amendment as summarized below? Amend the town charter by adding the new italicized language as follows. Items removed or struck out. Section 5.7 Capital Improvement Plan. The Capital Improvement Program Committee shall prepare and submit to the Council and Budget Committee a capital improvement plan at least 1 month prior to the final date for submission of the, and the word budget is struck out, and substituted in its place is manager's budget to the Council. Then we carry on. The capital improvement plan shall include. In summary, this amendment clarifies that the capital improvement plan must be completed 1 month prior to the submission of the manager's budget. This amendment language has been approved by the New Hampshire Attorney General's Office, majority vote required, unanimously recommended by the Town Council. Floor is open for discussion on Article T8.
Chris?
Yes, sir.
So, no idea if this is working. Is the implication of this that the town manager can't present a budget if the capital improvement plan isn't submitted?
No, the problem that we ran into is actually the opposite. It doesn't say, I can present a budget, but without the capital improvement plan there, because it doesn't say which budget has to be, which it has to be submitted by. So, because the council doesn't have to approve until November 15th. Is it my budget to the council, or is it the council's budget to the municipal budget committee? So this way, when the manager administrator presents the budget, the capital improvement plan will be part of it.
All right, my concern is just making sure that this doesn't tie the hands of the town manager to the CIP getting their thing submitted.
That would be the individual's job to make sure the staff presents that to them. So, by law, you have to have them by October 15th, so.
All right.
So it's taking something that's currently undefined and defining it, putting a hard deadline on it. Further discussion of Article T8. Seeing none, Article T8 will proceed to the warrant as presented. Article T9. Shall the municipality approve the charter amendment as summarized below? Effective date July 1st, 2020. Amend the town charter by adding the new italicized language as follows. Items removed or struck out. Section 11.3, terms of office. Except as otherwise provided on this charter, the terms of office of all members of administrative committees shall begin on the first Monday, and the language added is in April next following their appointment or election. And that is replacing the language following the second Tuesday in March. Then carrying on, and they shall end on the first Monday in April, language in April being added, and the language following the second Tuesday in March being struck. So it's in April in the year that their term expires. If a member received an appointment or was elected subsequent to the second Tuesday in March of the year in which the term of office originally commenced, the term to which the person was appointed or elected will end on the first Monday in April in the year that it was scheduled to end, striking out the language following the second Tuesday in March. In summary, this amendment allows for a period of transition of newly elected town officials. Currently, officials take office the Monday following the election. This amendment would have them take office the first Monday in April and allow for training prior to taking office. This amendment language has been approved by the New Hampshire Attorney General's office, majority vote required, unanimously recommended by the Town Council. Floor is open for discussion on warrant article T9. Seeing none, warrant article T9 will proceed to the warrant as presented. Article T10 for a change of pace. Shall we allow the operation of sportsbook retail locations within the town? It says within town or city, but
Well, it has to have it that way.
has to have it that way. But the essence of it is, shall we allow the operation of sportsbook retail locations within the town of Newmarket? Floor is open for discussion on Article T10. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Annette Hansen. I live at 9 Lookout Place. I have lots of questions about this. I tried to do as much research as I could about sports book retail locations, and I'm wondering, does the town council recommend this? How it came about that this is a warrant article? What effect this might have on the town that you perceive? If you're going to limit the number of these businesses, the location or size, and if the town will receive any proceeds from this kind of operation.
I can try to address it. First thing, the council is not allowed to recommend or not recommend this question. They only can put it on the ballot. What the state has approved is that there will be 10 retail locations across the state to allow in-person sports betting. So, for example, just music, this is people familiar with this. Seabrook odds are is voting on to allow sports betting there. So if they were to approve it, the former Greyhound track would put in for a license to have on-site betting. There goes one. So there'd be 10 across the state. Does that mean that we're actually going to get one? Somebody would actually have to apply to the state. The state would have to review it, and if they already gave out all 10, then no, we would not be able to get, the private place would not be able to get one. Do we get any revenue? No. No revenue comes directly to the town from that. It goes to education through the lottery, the same system as that. We would have to look at zoning and those kind of issues if it was approved and somebody came in to make sure it complies with our zoning. But other than that, it's just asking whether or not we should legalize it in town, much like we did in Keno a few years ago.
So a yes vote would put the town on a list of other towns that approve, and we may or may not be selected off that list by somebody for a retail sports betting location.
Correct.
And then if we were, then it'd have to be zoning and a bunch of stuff built up around that to figure out how that's going to work.
Exactly.
And of which we would derive no revenue.
Right.
Who chooses?
The
Who
state.
chooses which town?
The state.
The state does.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the state liquor stores. They decide where they're going to be, and they give you no money. But your police have to deal with it.
Right.
Sounds like a good deal to me. Anyway, further discussion of Article T10. Ross, did you have a comment you wanted to make? I saw your hand go up.
No,
It's
it's
still
just,
unlikely.
I just didn't know how it got there, and that there's no discussion or recommendations. It's the same question in the first
It
place.
sounds like the state is making everybody, or is asking,
They've asked everybody.
they've asked everyone to put it on there.
So one other question is, I mean, has the state defined what happens next at all? Like, what would lag and what would lead? Would the person who wanted to do this come in and get zoning first before applying to the state, or apply to the state and then come back and ask for zoning? Has any of that been defined?
No.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody's actually put in for a license yet. I mean, I haven't heard of anybody in the state. There's only, so far right now, only the cities, since they had a city election in November, some have approved sports bet and some have not. So only the cities are lined up, and now the towns are voting in March or May to have the same question.
So are these going to be state-owned or state licensed?
State's license.
So it's going to be a private operation licensed by the state?
Correct.
The only thing I'm thinking about, whether I agree or disagree, I don't even know, is this binding? In other words, what you're saying here is, we're gonna vote on a simple statement without having it discussed publicly, pros, cons, people with opinions. We're gonna commit, if we say yes to the state, that we are willing to house a sports betting operation. And is that binding? If they turn around and say to us, well, great, we're gonna choose you, Newmarket. Now, here are all the requirements of what we're gonna do to your town, and as a result of us saying, yes, we will house this, the state can say, I'm locating you. Or does the state now say, here's what's involved in putting in a sports betting operation, we're gonna fund this, it's not gonna cost you anything, and here's...
Let me explain again what the actual sports betting facility is. It's not a state-owned facility. It's a state license, much like Keno is. Again, they're only giving 10 licenses out. Much like any other business, they would have to comply with the laws of the municipality. So if we zoned it somewhere and said, look, you can only have it in this zone, then that's what it'd have to be. So like, we'd probably put in a zoning that says you can't be within X miles or feet from a school, from a church, those kind of items.
So if we said yes to this, and the state chooses us, we then get the opportunity as a town of Newmarket to define the codes in which this will operate, the hours of operation, where it's going to be about. So it's non-binding.
Right.
It's not necessarily a new facility, it can be a license to...
Right. And remember, there is sports betting now in Newmarket. It's just everybody does it on their phone. It's legal. The
Gotcha.
state of New Hampshire has that.
Yeah, I was just wondering about it's binding us to say, if we say yes now, then we have to do it if we're chosen, and you're saying, no, we still can codify around what that sports betting
Right.
operation.
There are 4 questions that municipalities have the right to allow or disallow in the municipality. The sale of alcohol, sale of lottery tickets, the sale of Keno, and now sports betting. The state requires the municipalities to vote whether or not they want to accept it. Probably nobody was around when they had the alcohol one, because that was so long ago. Lottery was popular in the 70s. They started voting on that to allow in communities. We just had Keno, and now sports betting.
And just for a little bit of background, you asked how this got to be on the warrant. The town council did, I believe it was a unanimous vote to place it on the warrant. So I think that we had the same question before us about Keno, and that vote was split. But this one was unanimous, thinking that it's the voters really who should decide whether or not this should happen in Newmarket.
Thank you.
Further discussion of Article 10.
It's a little confusing to me. So procedurally, would we be voting on all of these as one vote, or are we going to go individually through? What I'm saying, are we going to say, we're going to say the budget and then vote yes to the budget, and then all of these are accepted?
No.
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 Your ballot, each of these are individual questions
Okay,
on the ballot.
all right. Thank you.
Further discussion of Article 10. Seeing none, Article 10 will appear on the warrant as presented. The final article is 11, which is the budget. I'm going to read this. The town administrator / manager shall then give a brief presentation. The chair of the council will give us a brief state of the council address, and then we'll open the floor for discussion. So Article T11, to see if the town will raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles, the amount set forth in the budget posted with the warrant, or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $13,233,169. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $12,803,900, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town or by law. Or the town council may hold one special meeting to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. If passed, it is estimated that passage of this article will amount to $6.32 in the tax rate, which is a 61-cent increase over the previous year. If the article is defeated, the default budget will amount to $5.88, which is a 17-cent increase over the previous year. Majority vote required, recommended by the Budget Committee by a vote of 9-3, recommended unanimously by the Town Council. Mr. Forney.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. First slide that I have up here is our current tax rates. Of our tax rate, 64% of that goes to local schools, 8% goes to this, what we refer to the state school, which it doesn't actually go to the state and come back. It's what we collect as called the state school. It goes directly to the school. 4%, or 96 cents of the tax rate, is the county. And what we're discussing here is the 24%, which is the town portion. Here's just a quick chart with a comparing the tax rate for the past 5 years. The town is that middle blue line, is been pretty stable right there. So what happens if the Council and Budget Committee proposed budget is adopted? It'll be a 9.46% increase, or an increase of $1,143,620, an increase of $260,331 in the enterprise funds. The enterprise funds are water and sewer. They are not paid through taxes. They are paid through the ratepayers. So it does not impact the tax rate. The general fund, which is what everybody thinks of, is raised by taxation as well as other fees, would be an increase of $716,322. And the special revenue fund, which are funds that are offset by other fees, which we have are the solid waste, which is offset by the money we collect in bags, the recreation revolving fund, which is what is funded through the fees that you pay for the programming. And we also put the library in the special revenue fund because we have the council has no authority over line items in that budget, only the bottom line, because the library trustees do. The general fund is $8,490,844. Special revenues is $1,325,050, and the enterprise funds is $3,417,273. And where's this all going? $191,220 is debt service for the McAllen Dam. We have to pay for that bond that we approved. Next is a $28,727 in finance department employees. We're adding an additional part-time individual in there. $48,806 is for police salaries. We're adding a new police officer. We have not had a new police officer added since 1995. So it's time to actually look at adding a new police officer. $104,779 is energy improvement lease. That is, we entered into a program in which we have our savings from our energy improvements that we've been doing through town hall and town buildings goes back into paying off the lease to be able to do it, so it would not impact taxes. What you're going to see is we're going to see a reduction in energy costs, but you see an increase in this one payment, so that's why there is a offsetting amount there. $54,281 in a buildings and ground salary to add just an additional position because we have to make sure it's budgeted on our side. We receive a revenue because it's a shared position with the school from the school to offset that. $29,000 in solid waste disposal contract. Our rates are going up. We've entered into a one-year agreement with the seller to see where we can be at the end of next year. I think everybody's been hearing the stories about recycling recently in large meetings. That recycling is now costing municipalities money, whereas 10, 15 years ago it actually was an increment of a revenue maker. And $105,503 is going to the Water Capital Reserve Fund. That is not a tax item, that's a ratepayers fee. The revenue budget, we're estimating at $7,236,220, which is an increase over the previous year. We're seeing a number of motor vehicle registrations going up, as well as building permits. We are being conservative with this. We are starting to see some softening in the economy when it comes to permits, but we have seen a significant increase. If the budget is defeated, it'll be a default budget of $12,803,900. So we'd have to reduce the budget for that. This next slide is an estimate only using the data as we have today. I'm going to reiterate that. And that is what the tax impact would be. As was stated, it would be a tax rate of $6.32 per thousand. Gross appropriations, is how we figured out, is $13,233,167. The less revenues, which is everything but taxation, which is $7,236,220. We add overlay, which is an amount that we have to have for abatement that the state requires, so it's $20,000. We have to add $160,000 for our war service credits. Those are the credits that individuals who serve in the military receive on their property taxes. So the net town appropriation is $6,171,947. Our assessed valuation is $977,203,228, and that's how we come up with the rate of $6.32 per thousand. This is an estimate for a few reasons. One, revenues in the budget are just an estimate. We do not set revenues until October because that fluctuates during the year, and DRA sets that in October when we go to tax rate setting time. The other number that is, as of what we have today, is the assessed value. We don't set the assessed value of the town until April 1st, so we could be adding value, or if something happens, the value of the town should drop, so we don't set that till that time as well. So that's why this is just an estimate. And that's all I have.
So I asked to have this chance to address the community, and so I appreciate you guys giving me the time to talk about some of the work that the town council has done over this past year. There's not really an opportunity in our community to do that. So having a captive audience here, I thought that I would, I know it's been a long morning, so I'm going to try to be as brief as possible. But we've had a really busy and productive year. Every year, the town council chooses goals to work on. And so this year, we adopted our goals in July, and they centered around three major themes: economic development, quality of life, and sustainability. And these areas have been the focus of past councils, and they will most likely be the focus of future councils as they're ongoing and will need to be continually addressed as our community continues to evolve. In the area of economic development, the town has been working with a consultant to address the north, south, and west gateways to town. Work on this is really just getting started and was introduced recently in a joint town council and planning board meeting. We're excited about the potential opportunities in Newmarket to expand our existing tax base, while at the same time continuing to improve the quality of life and services to our residents. Development of the Wilson property has been a question previous town councils have tried to solve. The limitations of this property have made development challenging, and I'm pleased to say that the town administrator has been working with local companies to install a solar array on this town-owned property. So that's something to look forward in the future, near future. Parking continues to be a concern for the business community, for residents, and for visitors to town, and there are no easy answers or quick fixes to this, and we will continue to look for solutions to that. Sustainability has been an important topic in Newmarket. The town created an Energy and Environment Committee in 2018, which has helped to highlight sustainability issues and to propose solutions to the council and the community. After much research and consideration, the committee recommended that the town adopt a food waste composting program at the transfer station. Participation has been steady since it was created this past spring, and we hope to expand participation in the future. So if you aren't aware of it, you can bring your food waste to the transfer station whenever it's open. It's a program that's free of charge to residents. We also presented this program to the school board at our joint meeting this fall, and we hope that they will consider implementing food waste composting programs in the schools. As I said before, the town's preparing to enter into an agreement for a solar array, but the town has also looked at its energy usage in all municipal buildings and partnered with energy efficient investments, as the town administrator mentioned, to implement budget-neutral efficiency upgrades to our municipal buildings. These upgrades have included solar panels at the fire department, new LED lighting, and improved HVAC systems and controls in most town buildings. This summer, Newmarket also saw its first electric vehicle charging station installed at the library. This EV charging station is an opportunity to attract both locals and visitors to park downtown and explore our community. The shops, restaurants, and recreational opportunities that make Newmarket unique. One of the greatest resources here in Newmarket is the Lamprey River and our proximity to Great Bay. With that in mind, the town council agreed to more closely examine our waterfront, specifically how we can best protect Shanda Park, Heron Point, and the surrounding areas from the reality of destructive high tides and the threat of rising sea levels. This summer, members of the Town Council, Conservation Commission, Energy and Environment Committee, and Town Administrator met with representatives from DES to examine the serious problem of erosion at Shanda Park and discuss the potential of creating a living shoreline, as some other local communities have done. With that in mind, the Town Council created an ad hoc riverfront advisory committee. I believe there are still spots available if you're interested in something to do, to work toward this goal, and they'll be working with students from UNH to help with this process. In addition, the town received a grant from NCDC to be used toward engineering studies to examine the possibility of installing a pedestrian bridge to connect the downtown and Heron Point, increasing accessibility to this really amazing resource. In October, the Town Council adopted a budget that I believe reflects our priorities and the needs of our community. Our town administrator and department heads all do a fantastic job developing a responsible budget and managing that throughout the year. And we're grateful for their leadership and service to our community. These are really just some of the highlights of the past year, and in the interest of time, I've cut it down. There are lots of other projects that have happened throughout our community, accolades for everything from our police department and fire department and Department of Public Works. We have an amazing community. So, and I can assure you that this town council is a committed group of volunteers. It's been my sincere pleasure to serve with the members throughout the past 6 years. And looking ahead, I'm confident that the town council will continue to work on goals and meet the challenges of the year ahead. Thank you.
The floor is open for discussion on Article 11. Thank you, Madam Chair. Any discussion with respect to Article 11? Mr. Zink.
I apologize to the Budget Committee, because if I had been watching you closely, I'd know the answer to this question. But I'm always concerned about the delta between department recommendations and the final recommendations. It's been my experience through the years that serving on the Budget Committee and Town Council and School Board that some of the department recommendations that are made seem to get pushed aside pretty easily. And I'm not condemning anybody, but some of those department recommendations in the past have included things like roadway work that the DPW really felt was very, very important, and it turned out it was, and we ended up paying for it later. So my very brief question is, can somebody, Steve or somebody on the Budget Committee, name a couple of the significant differences between department recommendations and the final recommendations from the budget committee and the town administrator.
If I may.
Thank you.
Yeah. The main thing is actually contribution to capital reserve fund. We try not to hit any of the operations. Roads are still at the level they need to be. We've been, as you know, we've been increasing that amount in the past few years. We've been able to get a lot more done. The big things are, contribution to capital reserves. For everybody to know, capital reserve funds are like our savings accounts. And that's the money we put aside for when we need it. We withdraw it when we have a large project. For example, Public Works was requesting $285,000 be put into the capital reserve fund. And we only funded that at $75,000. One of the things that we're going to look at is instead of buying trucks outright by withdrawing from this fund, is begin lease purchasing of equipment. That way we can have a constant amount of money in there. So once a lease is done, we retire that, but we do another vehicle after that. For example, I know you mentioned roadways. The department had requested $250,000. We left it at $250,000, so we continued that. Building improvement, we had it at $278,000. We went down to $15,000 because we are now funding a lot of the building improvements in operations versus before we did it for capital reserve. The other large one, to just get to it, the difference between the budgets is about $600,000. That's the difference between the contribution to capital reserves from the council's budget to the department. So.
Further discussion of Article 11. Seeing no further discussion, Article 11 will proceed to the warrant as presented. While the town administrator was giving his presentation, a question was raised to me while I was standing against the wall about whether Article 10 was something that the meeting could move to not have presented on the warrant at all. We've been advised by our attorneys that that Article 10 has to appear on the warrant as presented to be voted up or down. So that's my best understanding. If there's no further business to come before the meeting, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Councilor Weinstein and Mr. Burns. This is second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed. Thank you very much. See you at the polls in March and the primary on February 11th.